There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, one that feared God and turned away from evil. Job 1 verse 1. He was a man both great in substance and pure in spirit. His herds covered the plains as clouds of wool. His camels crossed the deserts in long caravans, and the sound of his oxen at the plow was as the heartbeat of the earth. His servants were many, his storehouses full, and yet his heart was humble before the Lord. The blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow with it. Proverbs 10 verse 22. Job was a man of peace. His words were slow and measured, and his eyes were gentle yet full of understanding. When he sat among the elders, men grew silent that they might hear his counsel. The young men hid themselves for awe, and the aged stood when he approached. Unto me men gave ear and waited and kept silence at my counsel. Job 29 verse 21. His sons and his daughters were as the olive plants round about his table. 7 sons strong and steadfast, 3 daughters graceful as lilies in the field. They rejoiced together often, for their hearts were knit in love. Each in his appointed day held a feast in his house, and they sent for their sisters to eat and drink with them. The air around their feasts was full of music and laughter, and even the servants smiled, for there was joy in the house of Job. Yet Job, being a man of deep reverence, rose early after every feast, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of his children. He said, It may be that my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually, for the love of his children was bound to the fear of his God. Job 1 verse 5. He judged the poor in righteousness. The stranger who came hungry to his gate was not turned away. I was eyes to the blind, and feet was I to the lame. I was a father to the poor, and the cause which I knew not I searched out. Job 29 verses 15 to 16. His wife, Dinah, a woman of tender wisdom, ruled the household with quiet dignity. Her speech was soft, and her eyes shone with the peace of a heart content in God. Together they walked in unity, neither lifted up by pride nor brought low by fear. When the sun set upon the land of Uz, Job would sit beneath the fig tree before his house. The flocks lay in their folds, the servants rested, and a cool wind whispered through the fields. Then Job lifted his eyes toward heaven and said, O Lord, thou art my portion and the lot of my inheritance. Thou maintainest my lot. The lines are fallen unto me in pleasant places. Yea, I have a goodly heritage. Psalm 16 verses 5 to 6. He looked upon his children as a man gazes upon a garden watered by grace. His barns were filled, yet his soul found rest not in the grain but in the giver. And he said in his heart, Though the Lord prosper me, yet will I not forget that all flesh is as grass. For Job knew the frailty of man and the mystery of life. He said, Man that is born of a woman is of few days, and full of trouble. He cometh forth like a flower, and is cut down. He fleeth also as a shadow, and continueth not. Job 14 verses 1 to 2. But he feared not death, for his heart was fixed upon the Almighty. In his meditations he often spoke thus, I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. Job 19 verse 25. And the Lord looked down from heaven and was pleased with his servant Job, for he was righteous in deed, in word, and in thought. Yet unseen to the eyes of men, there was another counsel in the heavens. The sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and the adversary also came among them. And the Lord said unto him, From whence comest thou? And he answered, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. Job 1 verse 7. Then said the Lord, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and turneth away from evil? And the adversary answered, Doth Job fear God for naught? Hast thou not made a hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. Job 1 verses 8 to 11. And the Lord said unto the adversary, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thine hand. Job 1 verse 12. So the adversary departed from the presence of the Lord. And there was silence in heaven. The angels who stood by trembled, for they knew that the storm of testing had been loosed upon the earth. But on earth, the stars still shone over Uz. The air was calm, the sheep slept in their folds, and Job's house glowed with the light of peace. That night Job sat beside the fire with Dinah his wife. The sound of the wind passed softly through the palm branches, and the smell of frankincense lingered in the air. Dinah said, "My lord, thou art troubled in spirit. What shadow is this that crosses thy brow while all about us is blessed?" And Job answered, "A man must remember the Lord in joy, lest he forget him in sorrow. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Job 1 verse 21. And she pondered his words, and her heart was quiet. The moon rose high over the hills, and the desert shone like silver. Job looked upon his flocks, his children, his fields, and his home, and he gave thanks. Yet beyond the veil of that tranquil night, the powers of heaven watched, and the hand of trial prepared itself. For the peace of Job was but the stillness before the thunder, the calm that God gives to those whose faith he will soon refine as gold. When the time of harvest came, the earth was peaceful and full of fruit. Then the heavens opened, and the sons of God came before the Lord. Among them came the adversary, the accuser, who once had glory, but now carried darkness in his face. The Lord said, "Where have you come from?" The adversary answered, "I have been walking to and fro on the earth." Then the Lord said, "Have you seen my servant Job? There is no one like him on earth. He is good, honest, and faithful. He still keeps his integrity, even though you made me let trouble come upon him without reason." The adversary replied, "Skin for skin. A man will give anything to save his life. But if you touch his body, he will curse you to your face." The Lord said, "Very well. He is in your hand, but do not take his life." So the adversary left the presence of the Lord, and his shadow fell upon the earth. One day, Job's sons and daughters were eating and drinking in their oldest brother's house. Job was sitting under a tree, praying and giving thanks for his children. Suddenly a servant came running. "The oxen were plowing," he cried, "and the donkeys were feeding beside them. The Sabaeans attacked, killed the servants, and took the animals away. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." Before he finished speaking, another servant came. "The fire of God fell from heaven," he said, "and burned up the sheep and the servants. I alone escaped to tell you." A third came running. "The Chaldeans formed 3 groups," he said, "and stole the camels. They killed the servants, and I alone escaped to tell you." Before that man finished, a fourth came, his face pale. "Your sons and daughters were eating and drinking in their oldest brother's house," he said. "A great wind came from the desert and struck the house. It fell on them and they are dead." Then Job stood up, tore his robe, shaved his head, and fell to the ground to worship. He said, "I came from my mother's womb with nothing, and I will leave with nothing. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." In all this, Job did not sin or blame God. After many silent days, the adversary came again before the Lord. The Lord said, "Have you seen my servant Job? He still keeps his integrity, though you made me let harm come upon him." The adversary answered, "Touch his flesh and bone, and he will curse you." The Lord said,
"He is in your hand,
but spare his life." So the adversary left and struck Job with painful sores from his feet to his head. Job took a broken piece of pottery and sat among the ashes outside the city, scraping his skin. People passed by and were shocked. Once he was honored, now he sat in misery. Job's wife said to him, "Do you still keep your faith? Curse God and die." But Job said, "You speak like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" Still, Job did not sin with his lips. 3 friends heard of his suffering: Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. They came to comfort him. When they saw him from far away, they did not recognize him. They wept, tore their clothes, and sprinkled dust on their heads. They sat with him on the ground for 7 days and 7 nights. No one spoke, for they saw his grief was very great. At night, Job looked up to heaven and whispered, "Even if he kills me, yet will I trust in him." And he wept, for even the strongest man must weep. Thus ended the days of Job's happiness, and began the testing of his faith, faith that would shine brighter than gold. Blessed is the one who still worships when life is silent. Faith that never suffers is not yet proven. God allows the storm not to destroy us, but to show what our foundation is made of. Just as gold is purified by fire, so the soul is made pure by pain. The one who suffers quietly in trust speaks more loudly than 1,000 prayers.